Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for the Day 9 Daily Part 2 of Daily number 409, where we learn to be a better gamer. Today we're watching EmpireKas versus Zenio. In part number 1, we talked a lot about their openings basique. As we hop over, what is it that we liked about EmpireKas? Well, he got these 4 buildings up quickly to do fast drop play. But most sexily of all, he got a very quick third command center before he did anything like build these barracks or this engineering bay or too much tanks at the front. Very, very fast third. What did we like about Zenio's play? Well, he went ahead and made preparations for some early pressure with this Roach Warren, made this early preparation evolution chamber and droned up a bit, and made more and more and more roaches as he was under more and more and more pressure, but most sexily of all, got this drop play, which, as we saw, helps him so much for murdering his opponent. The big issue I want to discuss now is, of course, how this drop plays off, how it gets into a weird situation, and most importantly of all, come on, I say it so much, I've said this so much that if there were some sort of day 9 drinking game, people would be dead because of how frequently I say it. That's right, we want to figure out how to transition back to the most normal thing in the world. The most normal thing in the world. What is the most normal thing in the world in this matchup? If you can't picture it, you might be Scrooged if you end up in the same position. So as we come here, let's go ahead and jump into Drop City, USA. Yeah. First and foremost, bring a queen whenever you drop. Always, always bring a queen whenever you drop. If you can get creep tumors in their base, that's so good. This drop, I think, ended up going a little bit sort of haphazardly. Here is where the drop ends up finally sort of taking shape, and that's where the creep ends up being unloaded. I obviously think that having too much stuff on the low ground by the bunkers is not nearly as important as causing his entire main to lift, killing off all these add-ons. The main should be your big target, and if he brings his army up, sure, he can do a little bit more dropping up there. First and foremost, what makes Kas so impressive is that he still had the with-itness to take this medevac and to check for expansions. Because everything in the mid and late game is about expansions. Everything! So, for instance, if for some reason you are under a lot of pressure, you should immediately think, where can he be expanding? And I know that actually sounds weird to say out loud, but literally whenever you are being attacked, think hard. Where is he expanding? Can he be expanding? And I want you to be able to consciously say, he could be expanding there, and there's nothing I could do about it. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. That's fine to say, but you have to take that step of awareness. You must. There is no time. Kas loses himself a main base, and that's a problem. It would be so great if he could have cleaned a little bit there and gotten himself a creep tumor in the main base. He doesn't quite manage to do that, and a queen does fall. So Kas barely comes out the other end alive. But what do we see Zenio doing? Oh, that's right. Getting a spire. Should continue upgrading, maybe get a second evolution chamber, hatchery. Should be going for a third base. Might be a little bit difficult. But this is where we're going to speed things up. Now, at this point in the game, we do see there are some marauders that are out on the field. We see this dropping is continuing on, being very potent. But in a time like this, you shouldn't think of this as your main base anymore. This and this are going to be your 2 main sources of income. You obviously have to focus on defending them. But just Marines, tanks, medevacs, your basic bread and butter units are what you need to be going for. And super importantly of all, upgrades are going to be a huge point of consideration as you step forward. In a situation like this, you can't really afford to do something like go Banshee. You can't really afford to do something like go Blue Flame Hellion. So what you should do is build your basic stuff, Marines, tanks, and just upgrade the hell out of them. If you're going to be defending for a while, it means you're going to be sitting around, back home, defending things like your engineering bay that's upgrading. So, as much as I like this sort of play by Zenio that he's doing, the thing that really I think is the core idea is that he is going straight for a spire, continuing to put pressure on. Remember, Vikings are awesome if you're ever going for some sort of double starport and fast play. Or not double starport, a reactor starport. Always, always, always. And at a time like this is an exercise in how to analyze your own replays and how to improve things over time. So for instance, we saw that this drop, the idea of dropping in this game, I would say has had some good and some bad. This part was not so good. The drop that happened in the main back at the 12-minute mark, this drop was great, right? We were really even in food, and we're going to see Kas lose his main base. Everything's going to go haywire. This was a great drop. So, again, we're going to contrast this 13-minute mark with this 18-minute mark drop. Whenever this happens, where you have the same idea happening multiple times, but some happen good and some happen bad later on, what this means is that you didn't transition quickly enough. So for instance, here, when we see that this drop happened and didn't work so well, you know what would be great is if we had Mutalisks right now. We don't have those. The Spire's a little bit late. So for instance, when I'm doing this drop that happens at 12 minutes, what I want to be able to say out loud is, this drop works really great right now, and in a little bit it's going to start getting weaker, and in maybe 5 minutes it's going to be terrible. So I want to build my Spire right now. I made a huge deal about the most normal thing in the world. Oh, we got to get back to our normal thing. The normal thing is good to get to. Kas is in a good position to do his normal thing. Marine tank medevac. Because he has reactor barracks, reactor starport, and factories. Nice. What's the most normal thing ever for Zenio? Ling, Baneling, Mutalisk. What should he be doing? Transitioning to that a little bit faster. So we see the Spire, if we have the money to make it plop down right now, but we haven't done that. And it's very easy to get to this 15-minute mark and say, okay, yeah, now it's time to begin getting those Spire units up. And then all of a sudden, 3 minutes later, when you're at the 18-minute mark, yeah, let's go ahead and start building some Mutalisks. We don't have any on the field. Happens all the time at all levels. Transitions happen a little bit slowly. And the important thing is to rewatch and then to be able to identify. Because I think Zenio was in a really winning position. And now, after the failure of this drop up here, he's just in a regular old winning position, not a huge, overwhelming, beastly winning spot. And suddenly, we see another thing arise. There's not actually too much to analyze here. There's not that much new information we're going to learn. But interestingly, I still think it's important to note that this is old information still haunting us. We didn't transition to Spire. We didn't transition to Spire quickly enough. So that meant when we did this drop here, it was not as effective. Also, we didn't transition to our Spire quickly enough, which means that EmpireKas has windows to do these kinds of drops. Kas is so proactive about wherever he sees Mutalisks, which was down here, killing off these Vikings, boom, hit somewhere else, instantly. This drop doesn't happen if the Spire comes to life earlier on. So kick-assedly enough, we get the chance to see a game where two players kill off each other's mains. Oh, yeah. Yeah, so awesome. And Zenio, you see, did eventually clean that up. Envision if these Mutalisks had been up a little bit earlier, harassing, poking, prodding, Kas wouldn't have been able to deal with it nearly as well. StarCraft is a game about fastness, about getting things quickly. And I want to just touch on that point about transitions just briefly one more time. You heard me say, let's say you have a thing. I'll leave it as thing. Might be a composition, a tactic, a place you expand to. If it works really well for a little while on the first few times in the game, and later on in the game it's not working so well, it means you should have transitioned quicker in between. The opposite is also true. Let's say, for instance, what's a really good example of that? Ghosts. Ghosts in the matchup. Beautiful example of this. If you get a lot of ghosts in the late game, that's really, really good. But if you get ghosts too early, it's a little bit weak, it eats into other things, it doesn't feel good. So the exact opposite of true. If ghosts feel shitty now, but feel really good in the late game, then just try getting ghosts later on. Same with the drops. Except, in this case with drops, it's transitioning to something else. Not staying on the drops too long. So now we have ourselves a completely messed up position. We have ourselves one of the most weird spots we'll ever see ourselves in, where Zerg has 4 bases, but not really that much money. I mean, his main's mined out. That's kind of a weird spot to be in when we're just trying to get another base up. The upgrades are pretty much non-existent for our Zergy buddy. Yeah, look at that. He has 1 armor. He doesn't even have attack. You'll notice that our Terran player is at 2-0, almost, well, maybe a minute or 2 away from 3-0. And it's a time like this when it becomes critically important to start thinking of where you attack and where you expand. What makes Zenio such an awesome player, and by the way, why I have this awesome Team Liquid Zerg shirt that you can totally get if you go to teamliquid.net, and you should. Yes! Love this water. What was I talking about? I got into my shirt, I got into my water, and forgot that I was doing a show. Oh, that's right. One thing that I love about LiquidZenio is that Ling Muta Baneling. Everyone who plays Zerg vs. Terran a lot is very well versed with when to counterattack, where to hit with the Mutalisks in a very normal setting. Zenio obeys these rules of where to position things just as a general smart player. Most simple thing of all, just starting to poke and prod and peel away all the different places that the Terran player is located. And I think one of the big things is that it doesn't actually matter as much if you do a lot of damage with the Mutalisks. Just by virtue of moving over here, it makes EmpireKas start to feel like he needs to stim. The vision of EmpireKas is such a big contrast to the vision of Zenio. As he moves around here, look, just making his Mutalisks known. Making his Mutalisks known. Anytime you have Mutalisks on the field, you should have Zerglings somewhere on the field ready to join in the fun. Such as hitting these rocks. Such as sitting right here ready to counterattack at this location or counterattack at this location. And one of the wonderful, delightful things that we always see EmpireKas do is that this man is like a human drill. He just builds so many basic units and attacks so aggressively with them. A man who hasn't had a main that long is starting to waltz out to take destructible rocks. So great. We talked just briefly about Zenio and his Mutalisk movement and why that's sexy. One thing I want to talk about that we see EmpireKas doing that's really sexy is, quite literally, if you look at the middle of the map, he just moves along the edges in all ways. He pushes along the edges, he expands along the edges, he drops along the edges, and 2 units at once just moving out. Thorzane, you'll see do a lot of stuff like take his army and do one of these straight walk things. EmpireKas does some of that, but way more of this kind of stuff. Way more of like moving along the edges with these sorts of drops. And look at this. Makes so many command centers. He is mega aggressive, costing tons of money. But with all that money it's costing him, what are you seeing right now on the minimap? Look at Zenio's unit positioning. Everything is down here. Everything. Where is the rest of his army? Well, there's some smatterings there. Okay, that's it. And if we look at EmpireKas, he knows that all these units are down here. Sweet. He gains positioning at the cost of money. A great way to make up for that is to expand a metric shitload. A mega load. Like load times 10 to the 6th. He expands so much. Is mega times 10 to the 3rd? If you make scientific notation humor, you can't mess it up. Because if there's one person who cannot take a joke involving his field appropriately, it is the scientist. That is not how macrobiology works. Of course not. Of course not. Now, one thing I do love about EmpireKas, no, mega is times 10 to the 6th. What's macro? Is macro times 10 to the 9th? Is times 10 to the 3rd? I'm looking over at chat. Thank you very much, guys. Now, this little drop sort of thing might just look like, ooh, do a little damage, ooh, do a little bit of that, but we're going to see EmpireKas' unit behavior be quite a bit more suicidal than that. Kas gets himself into these ridiculous positions where he is expanding so much and dropping so much that it ends up almost being hard to keep up with him. Even though he's in these sort of zany positions, like, yeah, this is kind of weird having all these Mutalisks in there. Okay, that's cool. I'm expanding. Not a big deal. And where most players might be adding on more starports, being worried about a hive, whereas other players might be adding on a Ghost Academy to get more ghosts, Kas just gets more barracks, gets more factories, and just keeps up the tear and drill, man. He's a drillaholic. Drilling is a term I use for taking your basic units and winning by overpowering him. Not by doing anything fancy like getting a correct counter unit. If any jerks still use that term. Not by any sort of fancy tactics, just by building a bunch of basic stuff and throwing it at your opponent. Look at this. He's not... Oh, look, you know what? Let's build another command center. Another drop going on here. Wait, where did that happen? Holy cow! Oh my goodness, how does he do this? Come to the Zenio cam with me as we rewind another minute. Oh, great, I love it when we can do this. Okay, cool. Oh, found it. Alright, cool. Come to the EmpireKas cam. You know what's interesting? He doesn't even know exactly where the Mutalisks are. As we can see, he has them just in the center of the map. You'll still note that if the Mutalisks were over here, just envision if you were Terran and you saw Mutalisks down there. You could easily drop here, you could easily push and gain a good position here. MMA was one of the first players to really do this a lot. But EmpireKas has really sort of leveled it up quite a bit. One of the reasons why he's one of my favorite players ever to watch. How do we get more bases up? How do we deal with the Zerg trying to do all this stuff? Well, we just aggress. We just really bring the noise against him hard. Only took a little bit of damage. How lovely. This is actually great for us that we have Mutalisk Harass up here, because it means we can drop more easily down on this side. Marines continue to sort of clear out space. You just see him. That's so cool. It doesn't end up working out so well. Is that going to stop Kas? Nope. Nope. Noodly no. No. He's just going to keep building command centers and expanding. Has he scanned his opponent? He hasn't. At all. If you actually look at the energy of EmpireKas on these orbital commands, it's fairly low because EmpireKas, of all Terrans that I've really seen, scans around some of the least. He does so much muling. What does he do with the extra mules? The exact same thing that everyone else does, but he, like, builds another expansion. Cool! Cool! Mule! It rhymed, and I didn't even plan it. That was on the spot. We call that improv. Nailed it! Nailed it! Alright, EmpireKas gets blown up it. As a general rule, a little while in the past, it's super important to be building fewer mules and more scans. That's really important to do. Just so you can get into these good positioning situations. Zenio, you'll note, has been essentially trying to defend these expansions, trying to get up these expansions. And if you just look at the Mutalisk Harass for the last few minutes, it hasn't done much. Actually, I wonder if we can do this. No, I was hoping we could do a little preview in the mini-map because I don't know how exactly the replay works, but I know that sometimes it rewinds in 10-second increments, other times it rewinds in 2-minute increments. But Zenio has been trying to poke and prod around as best he can while trying to get up this greater spire. Has done the absolute best job that he can trying to do some of this harassment, but I think one of the big things that he left off the list were these destructible rocks. EmpireKas' playstyle is very much so an optical illusion. He's hitting you all over the place and building, Jesus, so many command centers. Like, what a nutcase. He's building so many command centers, expanding so much, attacking so much, that it's easy to perceive him as, like, indestructible as is. I got to get a better unit. I got to get some magical play in or something like that. But no, just continue to apply pressure to players like this. Some of the most aggressive players on the planet are best defeated by aggression of your own. Now, we explored all sorts of cool corner cases and ideas thus far, but you know what? Here's a basic one. EmpireKas moving downward because he's going to be expanding here. He expands behind his attack. Yeah, little pre-prep for Newbie Tuesday. EmpireKas does not drop. He does a whole paratrooper demonstration, man. So stupidly aggressive. Now, I want you to just stop for a moment and just think out loud. In this circumstance, that we're going to look at 1 minute, 30 seconds prior. Where is it? I don't have it. There we go. Okay. In this circumstance, where we're back here, we have this army. Actually, even a little farther back. Okay, we're here. Come to EmpireKas camp. Let's put on his shoes for a moment. We see this huge army that's just drifted off. Envision what a single dropship would do here. A single medevac would do. Well, maybe he brings some Zerglings down here. Maybe he brings all his Mutalisks down there. You know, maybe he just has 3 Banelings and 12 Zerglings and can kill it off. But if we bring full 3 medevac drop down here, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Now we're talking huge repositioning of the army. Look at Kas scanning there, seeing those units, but once this whole drop comes, look at Zenio pulling everything out of position. Now, sure, Kas did lose all of that, but what did he gain the opportunity to do? To drill. To drill. He's drilling in the middle, scanning for them Banelings. He'll be sieging up soon. Most importantly, he has expanded behind his attack. Oh yeah, he's building another command center. Let's go on to part number 3 after this. Part number 3, the end game, and some questions from you.